Delegates, guests, and ladies and gentlemen, I have a little bit of business I'd like to take care of before I get into the text of my remarks. The very first thing that I would like to say to all of you is thank you for the opportunity I get to serve in this capacity. Thank you for your support of our caucus and of my leadership. I want you to know that I do not take a single day for granted. I know what a great privilege it is to lead this party and to be able to serve, I hope, the party and my caucus colleagues. I have also made a commitment that on every occasion where there is a leadership vote, that I would respectfully ask for your support. There will be such a vote here just after the proceedings, after the lunch. And so I respectfully ask for your support in that. I still would like to carry on with the work that we're doing together. There's still some things to do. If you simply can't vote for me, the other announcement is that the balloting's been moved over to the casino. No, it hasn't, no. I would appreciate your support. Some other thank yous, if I may. There have been some announcements of MLAs, valued members of the team, who've decided to move on to other parts of their lives, with other parts of their lives and other careers, and some into retirement. And I hope you'll help me thank them. I want to start with someone who also helped build the party, who ran for the leadership, the first elected leadership, who served in cabinet and has been an excellent MLA and has decided to not seek re-election, Yogi Hugabert, the MLA for Wood River. Yogi, please, would you stand up and take it? We were really hopeful in 2007 that we could make a breakthrough in Prince Albert. Some good things happened. We were able to recruit an excellent candidate and a great team, a team that this candidate put together. He worked very hard as an MLA and served well in cabinet and has left behind one of the best organizations in his constituency. And he's going to go back to policing and continuing to serve the province. Would you help me thank Darrell Hickey for what he has done? In Saskatoon, Greystone, we had to start from the beginning as well, and we were able to attract another great candidate who had previously run for the Liberals, and he went on to be an excellent MLA and is still today, and served in cabinet and did a great job there and helped build our organization in that part of Saskatoon, not just his constituency. And Rob Norris is going to move on with other things, and I'd ask you to help me thank Rob Norris. Same story in Regina South. Kind of tough for the Sask party in the earliest years in any of the major cities, and Bill came along as a very well-regarded city councillor who had served his constituents well in that role and worked very hard to earn their respect, did the same thing throughout a couple of campaigns, ably served in the cabinet, served as a wonderful MLA, and Bill Hutchinson's moving on, not running again, and we should thank him as well, please. Bill, thank you. I want to thank my wife. There's Tammy down right there, and Mom and Dad are here. I'm just so well supported by my family and well loved, and I just will never be able to thank them enough because I couldn't do this job without them. Thanks, honey. Patrick Bundrock and his team at the party have been flat out for about 6 months. We've had some huge nominating meetings for them to organize. We have had this convention for them to organize, and then some jackwagon goes and calls a by-election in Lloydminster, and they've had to actually balance all of that as well. Patrick and all of your team, if you're here, please just stand up, and we can't thank you enough, but that term jackwagon comes from a commercial. I don't know if you saw it, a Geico commercial a few years ago, and I used it recently in a tweet. Some punks were knocking down the reduced speed signs that the government had put up by Belgoni, and so I just tweeted out that some jackwagons were knocking down these signs, and if you know who they are, you should report them to police. And the word jackwagon got a bunch of news coverage. It actually became a news story and kind of a little bit of chat around the province for a day. It was all pretty surreal. The next day, I think, we're shooting commercials, those ones you've seen, and we're shooting them in Saskatoon, and I'm up on top of this very large home, on the roof, literally, on the top of this story of this house filming this commercial, and in between takes, and there were quite a few takes, there might be another blooper video coming, I just sort of walked to the edge of the roof a little bit while they were getting ready or asking me to do a little better job of things, and there was a couple walking down below, and they began to look up, and they noticed me, and then I was pretty sure they were recognizing me, and I was also pretty sure they were thinking, why is Brad Wall on that roof? And they began, the man that was of the couple began to raise his hand, and I thought he was just going to simply say hi, and I would say hi back, but he said, "What's a jackwagon?" It was the most surreal life of... So then I explained it to him, and the crew also thought that was strange. Why was I explaining what a jackwagon was to someone on the... It's a great life. So we talked a little bit this morning, didn't we, about that great summer day in 1997. I remember where I was. I was in my office at the City of Swift Current. I was listening to the news, CKSW 570. I think the anchor, that was the broadcaster that was reading the news, was Everett Hindley, actually, because he was there at the time. And I remember getting really excited about what these folks had done, the party that they had created. We've already talked about what they wanted to do then. We already have talked about that they wanted to build a brand new political home, a new political house, one that would be an alternative to the New Democrats. They started, delegates and guests, with blueprints, as you would in the construction of any home. In fact, there's a likelihood that many of you, I hope all of you, are carrying around a copy of those blueprints in your wallet. The blueprints, of course, are the founding principles of the party, and they are written on the back of your membership card. They speak to economic growth and job creation through the private sector and not the government. Smaller, less intrusive, more efficient government. High-quality healthcare system for all Saskatchewan people, regardless now of where they happen to live. A strong social safety net that protects those who truly need support while encouraging individuals to become self-sufficient. Democratic reform to make government more responsive to the people that it serves, keyword serves. Individual freedom and the equality of opportunity for all citizens. The constant improvement of Saskatchewan's economic and social conditions within a strong and united Canada. These are the blueprints. And on the basis of those blueprints and that design, they started building a foundation. We all started building. In 2003, we had to make some adjustments to what we were building. We had to ask ourselves some honest questions about what the customer actually wanted in this house. And we made those difficult decisions, and we made that redesign. And then we kept building. And I think, almost 7 years to the day since our first election to government, that this is an opportune time for a property inspection. How are we doing in this political house? Well, as for the economy, we're doing pretty well in Saskatchewan today. And government ought not to, and we don't take credit for that, by the way. You should, and our natural resources are owed what we've done. But I hope that our growth plan, our agenda for growth, and our vision for growth, and the infrastructure investments we've made, and the taxes that we've cut, and the priority we've placed on diversification, I hope that's helped. Something is working very well in the province today in terms of the economy. That part of the house is just fine. Yesterday, Stats Canada released the job numbers for the country. Of course, they break down those numbers by province. Hear me now, ladies and gentlemen. There were 20,000 new jobs created in Saskatchewan in the past year, by far the fastest rate of job creation in all of Canada. Our unemployment rate is just 3.5%, the lowest unemployment rate in all of Canada. Over the past 7 years, you have created 72,000 new jobs in Saskatchewan, and here's the thing. 5,400 of those new jobs have come from the resource sector. That's only 8%. What does that mean? it means this economy is also diversifying. It means that 92% of the new jobs, 66,000 of them, came from agriculture and construction and innovation and manufacturing. This economy is diversifying. And the house is getting a little bit stronger. What about in healthcare? We've been building there too. Investment in healthcare is up 45% in 7 years. Funding for the Saskatchewan Cancer Agency under our government is up 98%. 420 new doctors practicing today, hired today, an increase of 24.3%, 2,600 more nurses, $1 billion spent on healthcare infrastructure as we've been building this new political home, including, by the way, the end of talk about a new children's hospital and the start of construction on a new children's hospital. 13 long-term care facilities in Watrous, Shellbrook, Radville, Rosetown, Prince Albert, Biggar, Robert, the list goes on. We've been investing in the larger acute care facilities because of the good work of our Moose Jaw MLAs. That new hospital in Moose Jaw is near complete. And we made our announcement, again, thanks to Herb Cox for his work, and progress is being made on the brand new Saskatchewan hospital at North Battleford. Yeah. $10 million for STARS, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks to Rod Ganifor for his work in opposition on STARS. You see, it was the vision of the Saskatchewan Party and in opposition, and it is today, that even if you live in rural Saskatchewan, where your proximity to 24/7 emergency care might be a little bit harder to do, even with a wonderful road ambulance system, that in this Saskatchewan, we could perhaps partner with STARS and have a flying emergency room complete with doctors if needed and triage nurses and land right on the spot and save lives. We partner with the private sector. We'll continue to fund it. STARS has helped build this new political house, and it's a project we're going to continue with. In education, record investment in schools, 40 new schools, including 9 joint use schools being built, 25 major renovations. Operating funding is up 26.5%. In post-secondary, we've invested $5.5 billion in post-secondary education. By the way, an increase in, and there's students here today, people who are at university, they're at the youth convention yesterday, had a chance to talk with them. You may hear from time to time on campus our political opponents say that the government has been cutting post-secondary education. Wrong. Post-secondary education funding under our government is up 61% since 2007, and the House gets a little bit stronger. And there's now the Saskatchewan Advantage Grant for Education Savings. By the way, that was Tammy's idea. We were sitting on the deck having coffee, and she said, the RESP program works pretty well. You should kind of boost it up, do something to partner with it, and we have, and it's now rolling out at financial institutions around the province. The graduate retention program, something we worked on in opposition. Wayne Elhard put a lot of work into that particular policy. We campaigned on it in 2007. We won the election and implemented it. This is where students can earn up to $20,000 of their tuition back if they would but stay in the province and work here. 50,000 students are enrolled in the graduate retention program, staying in the province. So now I get tweets like this from Ellen Williams, who tweeted out, well, Saskatchewan, your graduate retention program works. Today I introduced myself at a meeting as Ellen from Regina, Saskatchewan, not Ellen from Nova Scotia. I'm getting emails from people like Michael Dahl of Yorkton. I met him a few years back. It turned out we both had daughters named Megan. Michael's Megan was studying nutrition at the University of Western Ontario, and when we met, Dad didn't think she would ever come back home. By the way, this program is available to students who study outside the province if they'll come to Saskatchewan. He thought she would not return. Well, a few weeks ago, I got an update from Michael. He emailed me the good news. Megan has come home. She started her own business, her own nutrition counseling business in Yorkton. She saw an opportunity in a growing province, and happily she brought along Eddie Cullen, who's her fiance, who used to live in London, and now he says, hi, my name's Eddie, and I'm from Yorkton, Saskatchewan. We've made this house welcoming to everyone, as it should be. and a comfort to anyone that needs a little comfort, as it should be. We've been investing in affordable housing and social services at a record pace. We've responded to the disability sector by creating SED. June talked a lot about that, providing them not just the dignity of a program outside of quote-unquote welfare, but more money. We campaigned on it, we've delivered it. We're providing more financial support. There's greater independence for those who need it and deserve it. And then we found that wait list from the NDP's days of 440 people with an intellectual disability early on. Donna Harpower reported to Cabinet that that's how many people with an intellectual disability were waiting for the dignity of a home. And we said, well, we have a growing economy and the dividends of that growth should help people, so let's invest and build some new group homes and get rid of the wait list. And that's what we did. And the House got a little bit more welcoming and a little bit open to those who need it the most. This House has a very large garden. About half of the arable acres in Canada are in this garden, and we've been paying attention to agriculture. We've started out with some common sense things. Bob Benrod introduced rebate programs against pretty much any varmint you could think of. Keep them out of the garden. Beavers and coyotes were a problem for a while. The gopher rebate program. Thanks to Bob and Dave Merritt at SARM, we made a lot of progress there. The only gopher that was safe was Gaynor. And that was touch and go for a while. There have been some big issues dealt with in agriculture, though, hasn't there? We have, early on in our government, undertaken the largest reduction in education property tax in the history of Saskatchewan. We can never forget that we did that. Something that rural Saskatchewan had been asking for, pleading with the government for, and they got a lot of talk and promises, and we said we needed to move beyond the talk, and we've done just that. Record spending on agriculture research, by the way. Agriculture is a rock star in our economic success story right now, I've been saying. The numbers are amazing. It isn't just production that's driving growth. It's not just exports. It's the value-added piece. And so we want to keep doing the research in ag biotech, and we've been investing in record ways in that area. $27 million, by the way, nearly double what the other guys did in the same period of time for that agricultural research. We've increased irrigation capacity, and the list goes on. We've supported the rural road piece, and SARM will say we need to do a bit more, and we understand that, but there have been increases there to be sure. Our current agriculture minister, if I may just digress for a moment, would love to be here today, Lyle Stewart. Lyle is currently getting treatment, as you all know. And if you have the opportunity, please send him an email, because he's probably watching things too carefully. He's getting back to all of us about what's going on in question period. It's going very well there for him, and he's in a great mood, can't wait to come back, and the doctors are optimistic. But if you can blow up his phone with texts or emails today, that'd be kind of neat. You know, a lot of you know the story of the poor fellow that tried to carjack Lyle's car when he was coming to work one day, and what happened to him. We tweeted this out too, and we put it on Facebook. Our encouragement to Lyle is that he consider that cancer is trying to steal his car and beat it like we know that he will. In highways, ladies and gentlemen, we've sought to make sure that you can actually get to this house. There's been record investment in highways. Last year, the budget was $664.5 million, and by the way, that broke a record that was set the previous year by our government in highway spending, which broke the record of the previous year, and so on and so on. And we know that there's more work needed, but the best indicator of future behavior is past behavior, and we're going to continue to build highways and major highways infrastructure. There's been some major projects completed and funded by the government. The interchange Highway 1 in Louvain, Circle Drive Southbridge project. Twinning between Saskatoon and PA was sped up, as you know. Passing lanes between Balgonie and Fort Capel. Passing lanes underway for between Rosetown and Delisle on Highway 7. And Delbert, who worked hard on this, the new St. Louis Bridge is finally open. Big projects planned. The Regina Bypass will be the largest one in the province's history, twinning between Regina and the Canada-US border for Highway 6 and 39, and the list goes on. And the household finances of this new political home have been looked after by a couple of pretty good finance ministers and a very vigilant caucus held accountable by all of you in the party and the people of Saskatchewan. We made some decisions. We balanced every budget since we were elected in 2007, every single one, and we've reduced debt. The unsupported operating debt of the province is down 44% since we took office. So friends, this political house was well designed, and it's being well built, and it's growing, not only because of the things we have done to build it, but how we have appointed this house, how it's been decorated or furnished with our values and with the values of Saskatchewan people, like the value of humility. I cannot conceive of anything more moving, more motivational, more compelling than the thought of hardworking Saskatchewan women and men, oftentimes strangers to us as candidates, having done all of their research, walking determinedly into a voting booth, and with a small but powerful blood-bought X, entrusting to us the province that they love, and the community that they love, and the future of their kids, and a legacy for their grandkids. What then should be our recompense for being given that political trust? It is humility. We ought to be humbled every single day by the opportunity to be stewards of that trust and to serve all others, whether they voted for us or not, or whether they voted at all. You know, there's a kind of a visualization thing I've always gone through on this whole issue of an attitude of service. We get a lot of casework as MLAs, and I hope we're always picturing when those folks come in with concerns and sit across from the desk, I hope we visualize ourselves getting up from behind the desk and going around to their side and looking at government from their perspective and seeing what they see. We won't always be able to fix every concern. There are precedents perhaps to worry about or mitigating factors, but often if we'll do that in humility, if we'll move around and look at things from their perspective, we might see something wrong, and then we might change it. Let's be that kind of government. Let's have that value in this house. We have health care cases brought to us each day, and that's the approach of our health ministers. It always has been. But I remember when it was different. I remember when we were in opposition and we would bring cases like that before the legislature. And I remember the health minister at the time, John Nilsson, calling those people the Saskatchewan Party patients of the day. May we never be that government or that party. I think we have appointed this house as well with earnestness. And what I mean by that is that I think we have a good work ethic, and we should. We work hard every day. We're grateful for the chance to do it, but we also understand that governments are made up of human beings, and human beings make mistakes. And what people expect from each other is that if a mistake is made, that you acknowledge that mistake, that you highlight how you're going to avoid repeating it, that if there's something to look into and research, you do that and then you disclose it, all of it. You just lay it bare before the public and say, here's what happened and here's what we're going to do to ensure that it never happens again. And that is also a change in attitude than what we used to see from our opponents and even what we see today in terms of what they're prepared to admit about their past. I don't know, there's a lot of young people here, but a lot of people remember Happy Days. You remember Happy Days? The NDP they're the political equivalent, you've heard me say this before, but they are of the Fonz. You remember the Fonz? He could never say that he was wrong or that he was sorry. He could just never say it. These are important values. These are just aspects people expect of each other. Why wouldn't they then expect them also of their government? I remember actually what, again, Mr. Nilsson said after the 2007 election. His party has been handed a pretty bad defeat. Now would have been a good opportunity for any politician, especially one that had been defeated, to say, you know, the people of the province, they've rejected what we had to offer. We have to do some introspection. We might have to redesign our house. But here's what he said instead, quote, I'm apprehensive that we will have to, in a few years, clean up another mess. Yeah, boo. Well, these were prescient comments. 4 years later, they did have to clean up another mess. There was 9 of them in the House. And once again, they were rejected by the voters. And since then, we have been waiting to hear from the new leader or any of the elected members if they will say something like, we obviously weren't getting things right in the last couple of elections. We weren't responding to the needs of people. We weren't offering a vision, and here's how we're going to do better. I mean, the bad news for them and the good news for us politically is I've never heard it. Let's be the organization and the party that is always introspective and that can be reflective and can say that we're sorry and that we're wrong, and most importantly, how we plan to fix things going forward. We should appoint this House, keep appointing this House with integrity. If we make a promise, we should probably keep it. If there's something in the campaign we said we wouldn't do, we probably shouldn't do it. We should ensure the House is also appointed with the value of humor. I'm a big believer that humor is very important in leadership and service, and frankly, in competence. In addition to the therapy of a good laugh, even a guarded smile, humor has the added salutary advantage of being the best conductor for humility. I believe that leaders, community leaders, party leaders, political leaders, ought not to take themselves too seriously. They should leave that to others, and it likely will happen. We have a lot of vehicles for laughter and humor in our caucus. You heard them all this morning. They've all got a great sense of humor. You heard Rod Ganfor. Has that struck you at all, that this is a common denominator in this party, and it's a good thing? We will always have that sense of humor, by the way, as long as Don Morgan is a member of the Saskatchewan Party. I mean, oh Lord, don't clap for him. People in this room should know, people at that table should know, never set your cell phone down beside Don Morgan. I have a couple of quick stories on that count. We were at a reception a couple of weeks ago, and the mayor of Weyburn, who's also the president of SUMA, wanted a picture, and Don Morgan was standing there, and so she said, would you hold my phone while I get this picture with the premier? And I was thinking, oh, that's probably not. But she did. It wasn't locked either. And so Don Morgan flipped through her address book, unbeknownst to Deb Button, and found Dustin Duncan's email address and sent Dustin Duncan the email that went something like, hi, it's Deb. I'm very sorry to tell you this, but I'm going to be running against you for the NDP. Signed, Deb. We're driving to another function later that night, and my phone, I get an email from Dustin Duncan. I don't know what's going on. I didn't know that she was running for the NDP. Don Morgan, and former NDP MLA Kevin Yates once left his phone beside Don Morgan. And later that day, Pat Atkinson got a strange email from Kevin Yates that said something like, I think Don Morgan is a very handsome fellow. During the throne speech debate, Bob Benrod was in full throat. He was giving her. So much so that he made Buckley Boulanger very angry. I missed this part, but Buckley Boulanger swore a lot and walked out of the chamber. And I think he walked out of the chamber. I hope he did. It makes a better story if he did. He did come back and had to stand up and apologize to the House for swearing, for using unparliamentary language. The next day, Doreen Eagles, our amazing caucus chair, is back. She'd been feeling ill the day before, and it's her turn to speak to the throne speech. And so she stands up and says, Mr. Speaker, I'm paraphrasing a bit here, but basically, Mr. Speaker, I wasn't able to be here yesterday. I was feeling ill, and I had to have a dose of Buckley's. But apparently my colleagues at the legislature were doing the same thing. We have a group with a great sense of humor. We have a lot of laughter in this House. It is well designed, and it is well founded and well built and well appointed. And it compares favorably to that really bright orange house down the street, which has fallen under some disrepair. We ought never, by the way, to take anything for granted. Don't worry, we never will. But you feel a little bad for the other guys because they've fallen out of familiarity with hosting a lot of people. They haven't had a lot of visitors lately. In fact, this summer, while we were doing another round of our barbecues, And by the way, thanks to all of you constituency associations that put those on. Those are great events. People are invited to them. You supply the hot dogs and the hamburgers, and there's games and face painting, and everything's free. And then we come and we exchange ideas, and some people have concerns to raise, and we hear those out. And they're great events. The NDP were monitoring these this summer because they decided to have their own picnics. Come over to our house, they were saying. Here's an actual notice that ran on the NDP website for a picnic held a few blocks from here at Kiwanis Park. It reads, quote, "Families are asked to bring their own picnic basket lunch. You may also want to bring your own lawn chair or your own blanket, since the picnic tables on the site are limited. And of course, feel free to bring your own games and your own football and everything else you might need to make this a fun-filled afternoon with both your own family and your extended NDP family." In other words, they're basically just saying, come to the park and have a picnic on your own. But the notice goes on to say, cash donations to help us cover the rental costs for the park would be also greatly appreciated. You know, folks, not to be too hard on them, but it is kind of how they ran government for a long time. We're not going to provide you with any services, but you're still going to get to pay. Folks, the last quality that I hope can be seen on the outside and on the inside of our political home is optimism. Above all, let this political house we have built stand for optimism. Let it stand for a vision that's worthy of this province in all of its rooms, in every corner, on the inside and on the outside, and in the hearts and minds of all who live there or visit there, should be the value of optimism, should be our hope for a great future for the province that we love. Let us, in all ways, be that party and continue to build that house. One that believes and says and acts on the belief that Saskatchewan should, without fail and without exception or hesitation, be an aspirant to national leadership. Seek to lead in the creation of sustainable jobs. Seek to lead in the diversification of the economy. Seek to lead in innovating in healthcare to make it better and more responsive. Seek to lead in how we care for those who are most vulnerable among us. To be aspirants to leadership in Canada for all the right reasons. And folks, we need also to be equally determined that those who have a much dimmer view of Saskatchewan's prospects are not allowed to take us back to those days when their sanguine vision of economic mediocrity became a self-fulfilling prophecy. You know, as I travel this province, I hear a lot from you and from constituents who will say, you know what, we wish this road would get built, or we want this project to be funded. We'd like your government to do that. You haven't quite gotten around to that yet. But almost invariably, they finish that thought with, but we like the direction the province is going. We like where the government's headed in a general sense, and we don't want to go back. We should do our part leaving this convention then, whatever we think that part might be, to reassure those people and our neighbors that as long as this party has life and breath and resource, we are not going to let it go back to the way it was. That should be our resolve in the upcoming election and in each day we have the chance to serve. I like this house. We get to wake up in it every morning. And when we do, we know that we have not yet seen our best day. We get to wake up in it every morning and know we haven't reached the end to progress or the growth that we want for our province. We get to wake up in it every morning and know that we have not yet scaled the next height. I'm proud of the house we built. We should keep building it. May God bless us as we try, and may He bless the province of Saskatchewan. Thank you.
It's stronger than sticks, stones, and steel. It's not a big place sitting up high on some hill. A lot of things will come and go, but love never will. Oh, I'm proud of the house we built.